The GTD method, or getting things done, stems from a book by David Allen called Getting Things Done: The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. It's a personal productivity system, or in simple terms, it's a task management system to keep track of all the things in your life. I will go through the basics of the GTD system. So this is a full beginner's guide of all the concepts and the full process you need to go through in order to set up your own GTD system. The Getting Things Done model is based around a workflow consisting of 5 different steps: capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage. All the tasks, or all the stuff that comes into your system, goes through all of these 5 steps. And when you get this system under control, you can do them pretty fast. But all the things that goes into the system goes through all of these 5 steps. The first thing you need to do is to make sure that you capture everything that you maybe want to do something about, that you should do, could do, or absolutely have to do something about. A key part of the GTD method is that your brain is not meant to keep tasks and to-dos and reminders just in your brain, but you should use your brain for more creative and intelligent things. The GTD system is built so that it captures everything that is spinning around in your head, and all of the papers laying around, all the little to-dos, all the things you maybe should do sometime, so that everything that's in your brain also has something connected to it in the system. This, of course, means that it's super important to capture everything into the system, because if it doesn't go in, the whole system basically fails. And the way that you do this is through inboxes. So an inbox is the first key part of the system that you need to set up. And an inbox is basically a place where you capture everything that you might need in the future or might want to do something about. You should aim for having as many inboxes as you need in order to capture everything that comes into your life, but try to minimize it to have as few as you possibly can. You need to capture everything because, as I said, if you don't, the system basically fails. But don't have too many, because that will just overwhelm you. In an optimal Getting Things Done setup, you should have both physical inboxes and digital inboxes. So a physical inbox could be a paper tray where you put all of your mail that you've gotten from your mailbox or any papers lying around. It could also be having a folder in your bag so that you can capture receipts and brochures and things that you get on the go. A digital inbox could be the inbox part of your task management app or system. I really recommend you to have some sort of task management app or something like that and not have it in a physical way, because it just makes the whole thing so much easier, and the task management is a key part of the GTD system. Other digital inboxes could be your notes in your phone, your emails, or your text messages, or other things like that. Think through all the things that you need to capture and create an inbox for all of them, but try to keep it as simple as possible and don't overwhelm yourself. So for an example, don't put a paper tray in every room. Keep it to one room. You don't need to have one in every room. You just need to have one so that you know when you're looking for your papers, that is where they are. Now, when you have a bunch of stuff in your inbox, you need to clarify what it is. So what is it actually that you have put in your inbox? If it's a regular task that you need to do, make sure to clarify it so that you know exactly what it is that you need to do. Instead of just writing reach out to Steven, write clearly, call Steven and ask what it costs for him to repair our bathroom. There's a huge difference there, and it makes it so much easier if you know exactly what it is that you need to do every time that you look on your task list. The next question that you should ask yourself is this actionable? Is this piece of paper or this note or whatever it is that's in your inbox, is it something that you can do something about? If it's something that you can't really do something about, you have basically 3 different options on what to do with them. So the first option is that you can throw it away or donate it or whatever you want to do with the thing, but remove it from your life. If it's something that you can't use right now, but it's something that you might want to reference further on, you can archive it. And if it's something that you can't do something about right now, but it's something that you might want to do in the future, you should put it on hold. And I'll explain these steps further in part 3, but these are the steps that you should do, and I'll tell you where to put everything later. If it is actionable, you have 3 different options here too. If it takes less than about 2 minutes, you should do it right away because it won't take up time in your workflow and it won't really distract you, but you can get it done and get it over with at once. You could also delegate it. If it's not something that you can do anything about yourself, you can delegate it to someone else. And you can also postpone the task. If it's not something that you can do today, but maybe you can do it tomorrow, you postpone it. So these are basically the only 6 options that you can have while dealing with the things in your inboxes. So let's get into the organize step, which is super closely related to the clarify step, and see what to do when we archive, put on hold, delegate, and postpone. The organize step is to make sure that you keep all of the stuff that has come into your system by capturing it in your inboxes and clarifying it to keep them in the right place so that you know where you'll find them later on, corresponding to what you can actually do about them. So the first part is your archive. You should archive things that you might want to reference in the future, but that you can't do something about right now. It could be things like bank paper, house papers, your birth certificate, things that you know that you might need, but you don't need it right now. This also goes for digital things. For me, I basically have 3 different ways that I store reference items into an archive. I have a physical folder where I keep all of my physical papers, and I basically stuff everything in there. I don't need so many papers now since everything is digital, so that is where I keep them. I have my digital files in a OneDrive folder in the cloud and in my computer, so I store all of my images, videos, other files, anything in a digital file format. And then I use Notion to store all the notes that I take when I go to classes, courses, and meeting notes and all of those things. So the things that you put on hold that you can't do something about now, but you maybe want to do it in the future, or you will want to do it in the future, they should be put on your someday maybe list, or someday maybe lists. So make a folder or something in your to-do app and name it someday maybe, and there you can have all your someday maybe lists. So what are these things? Well, it could be really anything, that depends on you. But classical things are places to visit, books to read, series and films to watch, restaurants to try, things to buy, and then other lists that are more connected to your life. Like if you're interested in music, you might want to have a list of songs to learn or things like that. You could also have a general bucket list, could also be a part of the someday maybe list, or like a general goals list of things that you might want to do in the future that are not actionable right now because you're not going eating at this very moment, but it might be some restaurant that you want to try when you're out with your friends. Those things you should keep in lists so that you don't forget about them. For tasks that you're delegating, you want to have a waiting for list. And this has really changed the way that I keep track of things. This is a way to keep track of things that you are waiting for, but that you are not the main responsible person of. So for example, if you are returning an item that you have bought, like you bought a pair of shoes online, you've tried them on, they didn't fit, and you sent them back. When you've dropped them off at the post office, it's not your responsibility, but you still want to keep track of it to make sure that you get your money back. That is a typical thing that you might want to have on your waiting for list. It's super easy to set up in your task management system. You just basically have a list that says waiting for, and there you put all of the things that you are waiting for, like packages to arrive, people that you're waiting to get back from, calls, things that you have lent to people, and so on. The last thing that we did was to list all of the things that we postpone. And for things that you postpone, there's basically 2 different places where you should put those. If it needs to be done in a certain time or a certain day, or it's some kind of deadline, it should be in your calendar. It could be events that you go to, deadlines that you have in your job, or other things that you need to do a specific time. All of those things should go into your calendar, because your calendar is where you look if you need to be somewhere or you need to do something in a particular day. So you should have things in your calendar, preferably instead of your to-do list, if something needs to be done a specific day or specific time. So things that need to be done at a specific time, you put it into your calendar like usual, like in a meeting or an event. And if it's something that is specific to a day, you can put it up in the header of the day, and there you can have all the things that are just for that day, but are not relevant to a specific time of the day. If the thing in your inbox is something that you should try to do as soon as possible, you should put it in your next actions list. And this is basically the main to-do list. So these are all the tasks that you should try to do as soon as you possibly can, but you can't do them right now. And David Allen recommends dividing this list based on context, which is basically you have a list for everything that needs to be done on your computer, things that you need to talk to Erin about, things to do on your phone if it's an errand, in your office, at home, and so on. So this is for you to find it quickly when you are in the right context. Like, for example, if you're in between two meetings, then maybe you can look on your phone list to see if there's someone you need to call or anything else that you can quickly do on your phone. If you find something in your GTD system that requires more than one action, it is defined as a project, and you don't need to see a project like a work project or a school project. A project in the GTD system is basically something that needs more than one task and can be completed in about less than a year. So in your task management system, you should also put up a project list. And this list just lists all of the projects that you have ongoing, like renovating your bathroom or hanging up grandma's painting on the wall. It doesn't have to be a huge thing, but everything that requires more than one step should be in the projects list so that you don't forget to add in another task when you completed the first one. So for example, hanging grandma's painting on the wall could consist of the steps buying screws, borrow a screwdriver from a friend, and then mark out how high on the wall it should be, and then finally hang it on the wall. And the reason that you might want to have a separate projects list is that in your next actions list, so like your regular to-do list, you only want things that you can do right now. So for example, hanging the painting on the wall, you can't do the actual hanging until you have bought the screws or borrowed the screwdriver. So those two actions you can do right away. You can do them both separate of each other, and you can do them as soon as you want to and as soon as you can. So those should go on your next actions list, but hanging up grandma's painting on the wall should be on the projects list so that you actually remember to put in the action of hanging the painting on the wall when you completed the two other steps. In order for the system to work, you need to keep up with it and keep it updated. So there are a few things that you need to do daily and some things you need to do weekly. So the things that you need to do daily is that you need to go through your calendar to see what's up for the day, and you need to go through your next actions list. It's not any harder than that. That way, you have made sure to keep up with everything. And also, you need to put things into your inboxes when they show up. And the one thing that you should do weekly is to have a weekly review. And you might think right away, like, a weekly review sounds so hard and unnecessary, but it's really one of the key concepts of the system to keep the system going. So what you need to do is to make sure you have a time every week where you do your weekly review. And this takes about like half an hour, depending on how many things you have to go through. But what you need to do during your weekly review is to go through and empty all of your inboxes from the first thing on top down until you're finished with all of them. You need to go through your calendar and add things. Look a week back in your calendar and see if there's something else that comes up, and look ahead and see if there's something that you need to prepare for a meeting or something like that. You should go through your projects list and see that you have a next action in your next actions list for all of the different projects. You should go through your waiting for list and see if there's something you need to check up on. You should also go through your someday maybe list and see if there's something that you might want to move from there into your next actions list instead. And then the last thing that you should do is to brainstorm things that you might want to do. So you can use a trigger list to do this. And I wouldn't say a trigger list is an absolute staple of the system, but it can help you to keep things on track and to make sure that you brainstorm about things that you need to do, because sometimes things pop up in your brain, but you're not fast enough to write them down. And this is a way to go through everything again. So a trigger list is basically a list of all the different areas in your life that might need some kind of action. I think David Allen might have some up on his website as well, and you can just use that or make your own. Here you can see my trigger list that I use. And when you've done your weekly review, make sure to plan your next one so that you don't forget it, because if you start skipping over your weekly reviews, the system will slowly but surely fall apart. And the last step, which is engage, I will not go into depth on that one because it's basically just interacting with your system and getting things done. Using your next actions list to do things, using your calendar to make sure that you remember everything that you need to go to. So this step should be easy when you set up the whole system for yourself. Will you be implementing GTD? Tell me down below in the comments and make sure to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching this video and I'll see you in my next one.